してくる。限界なんだ。僕を置いて先に行け。誰にも見られたくないんだ。お前のことは忘れねえ。たとえ野グソでもずっと友達です。行くんだ。
What would you have to do to be even remembered, let alone stick out in a season dominated by the likes of Chainsaw Man, Bleach, and even Bocce the Rock, and then do it all over again a year later against goddamn Frieren? Well, you'd got to be the Eminence in Shadow, the ultimate Chunibyo teenage edge taken to the max, and I both love it and hate it in equal measure. The main character Minoru Kagenou loves power and feeling powerful, so he trains, and trains as hard as humanly possible in order to become the ultimate wannabe Batman, without the money or the suit or really the charisma either, but what he has is determination, and the skills required to beat up all the biker gangs in existence and then disappear into the night all edgelord cool and shit. But he has one problem. He has to face the realities of, well, reality. It doesn't matter how hard you try, you can't beat a gun, or even if you somehow manage that. What if someone were to drop an atomic bomb on your head? What then? Simple. Become the atom bomb, motherfucker! But humans simply cannot do that unless they possess magic. So it's Trakkun to the rescue and isekai time. Goodbye Minoru, welcome Cid. Still Kagenou though, gotta have some form of continuity in your parallel worlds. Fast forward past the mandatory babyface that all unfortunate enough to be born into this mortal coil are required to complete as a tutorial, and things start to get interesting. And by that I mean ridiculous. Cid is still everything he always was, the ultimate NPC with a dark secret. By day he does everything in his power to appear as uninteresting as humanly possible, but when the moon hangs high in the sky and the wolves howl in the night, Cid Kagenou becomes Shadow. The dark, brooding anti-hero destined to be the bane of any and all bandits whose treasures he can steal to further fund his eminencing in the shadows. With coin acquired by such morally questionable means, his organization of bombshell hot female warriors, dressed in body-tight magical slime suits, grows bit by bit into the fearsome Shadow Garden, eventually eclipsing entire nations in power, wealth, and influence in their seemingly never-ending quest to stop the Diabolos cult from summoning the Archfiend and thus ushering in the end of days. Or at least that's the random bullshit story Cid tells his followers to keep them playing his little teenage boy's dream role-playing game of anime Batmans. But what Cid doesn't know is that he just happens to have plot armor thicker than your average Disney mom, and through complete and utter intention from the author, every single batshit insane reason for anything in the history of the universe ever that Cid just happens to come up with on the spot turns out to be completely true. Of course, without the culprit himself being aware of any of this, to Cid he's just fucking around living his dream, thinking that everyone else knows that he is just making shit up, but to those not named Cid Kagenou, Shadow is the second coming of the Messiah, Buddha and Amun-Ra, put together into the perfect being destined to one day rule the multiverse. On a side note, I'm not quite sure how Cid thinks he's just playing around when what he does is murder thousands of people, but I guess a man needs a hobby. The point being, Eminence in Shadow is satire at its finest. And if you don't think this is a parody, try and tell me that with a straight face when one of the bad guys is the Royal Chancellor Perv asshat. Yeah, I didn't think so. The whole point of the Eminence in Shadow is to be so unserious that it borders on the not funny, and then swapping straight back to actions having real consequences, at least sort of. People die, kingdoms fall, and Cid Kagenou still thinks that the great plot behind it all is just a figment of his imagination, rather than cold, harsh reality. But that is also where the show kind of fails as well. There's this arc when Cid is going against his own organization for reasons, and gets caught not once, but twice, on both occasions saying something along the lines of, "Only I can know the true secrets of the universe," causing the lead figures of the Shadow Garden to first think that their best friend was killed by this random asshole called John Smith, when in reality she was just sent off on a wild goose chase, and then causing his closest follower Alpha to fall into a deep depression as it seems like Shadow has no more use for her. This hits hard, especially since to Cid it's all just a game and he doesn't get that he's genuinely hurting people that care about him. But then all that depth is just hand-waved aside in the next episode and it's straight back to stealing a grand piano, just so that you can look edgy as fuck and give mysterious advice to a girl who thinks they love the real you, but instead it's 4D chess of personalities and not even you know who the real you is anymore. The point being, there was a chance for more in the Eminence in Shadow. It's sort of the edgy cousin of Konosuba with its over-the-top jokes, but at the same time, whereas Konosuba felt more complete and stuck to its guns, Eminence in Shadow just doubles down on the really important topics being jokes and never fully commits to anything beyond the tongue-in-cheek. Don't get me wrong, it's still really funny at times, and the anime does a great job of trolling the audience at every turn, but it does fall short of true greatness. That and the comedy is a little hit and miss. Yes, humor is completely subjective, yada yada yada, but when you go from Cid's self-burns about being poor or his ultimate NPC energy confession to the school idol, to making fun of a girl who doesn't feel confident in her own body, anyone can tell that there's some discrepancy going on in the quality of the gags. And the same goes for the production quality as well, mostly because the Eminence in Shadow is made by Studio Nexus, and if you've never even heard of them, don't worry, most people haven't, and for a good reason. Their roster is, how do I put this nicely, bad. Now, it's not Handshaker's levels of terrible, but when the average MEL score of your product starts with a 6, it ain't great either. And this kind of shows up in Eminence in Shadow too. The action is pretty good in general, Cid and his pals are OP and they look and feel that too, and especially the second season looks kinda good, not gonna lie. But early on, you do get a lot of variation in that quality, the worst offender probably being the chair.jpg. Oh yeah, and because someone's going to comment it anyway, the anime is not based on the manga, but the light novel, so if there is some discrepancy in that regard, now you know why. Also, I'm not sure if this is a good or a bad thing since I've not read either, but it being done this way means that Studio Nexus had a mostly free hand in choosing where to go with the visual comedy side, and for the most part they did a pretty decent job of it. The Cid being easily swayed by money and the pooping in the street scenes were both hilarious examples of this. But then again, while funny, scenes like this are kind of few and far between, and I feel like they could have done a lot more with it. But I guess that's the limitation when your studio is known for only producing generic garbage. There's a certain lack of daring to go above and beyond and truly explore the limitations of your craft. But hey, it's still dumb fun that isn't afraid to make fun of itself, just like a parody should. Every trope and character exists despite what they ought to be, and even the one full-on filler episode was pretty fire. Ignoring the grating comedic relief pair, I really like the mandatory onsen/beats episode of freeing the sad dragon. It's not going to be remembered as the greatest storytelling masterpiece of our time, and that's fine. So long as it's entertaining, what more do you need? And with that, thank you for watching, and especially big thanks to RC Rally for becoming my very first channel member. If you too would like to have your name shouted out here at the end, you can also become a channel member and support me as a creator directly. Another way to achieve that is hopefully soon TM the Patreon. Whenever Patreon makes the video upload feature available for all creators, then I'll be uploading all of my stuff there ad-free because of YouTube's, let's just say, questionable policies on ad blocking. Anyway, you may have noticed that this video has been slightly different in the editing department, and I would go so far as to say that it's been quite a lot better in the editing department, and that is all thanks to Consumer being the editor of this video. He is a fellow anime YouTuber as well as my co-host on the Generic Anime podcast, which will hopefully get to recording more episodes soon-ish. Anyway, if you too are an aspiring YouTuber and would like to hire Consumer as your editor, I will leave all the links to his stuff down below in the description. His Twitter for contacting and potentially other social medias, as well as his YouTube channel, so you can go look at more of his stuff. Anyway, with this, I have been Cheese, and I hope to see you next time. Ta-ta for now.